September 14th, Barnesville Town Council meeting. I will take a roll call to my right.
Dustin Doyle.
Ruth Ann Moore. James Rommel.
Andrew Greenwood.
You can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under other council business, Mr. Umbarger, if you want to go ahead.
Good evening. As you know, I'm Marty Umbarger. I'm here representing Bargersville Main Street. And if you recall, last month, we were here asking for your approval and support to conduct our first concert that we've had in quite some time right here on Main Street. I would like to hand out a little flyer that we kind of put up for the evening. And everyone in attendance is also welcome to come the week from Friday here from 5 to 9. But council members, what I'm here is to ask you for your support, and if you would consider waiving the yard sign fees for us. We'd like to put out 4 yard signs throughout the community in here in town, and we'd like to also have your support in putting one at the roundabout at Morgantown Road and Whiteland Road. It has so much traffic there. It won't be a sign like this. But it's a 4x8 sign. And so there's 2 things I'm asking there is for your waiver fee on that for us, since we are together with you representing the town and trying to get a lot of our community to come and have a kind of a nice evening. We're excited about it. We're doing some advertising, and we'd like to get the word out to the community. So I would ask your support for that.
I'll make a motion to waive the yard sign fee, the sign fee for Bargersville Main Street, and allow them to put a sign at, Whiteland Road?
Whiteland Road and Morgantown Road at the roundabout.
A motion by Ms. Qualls.
Second.
Second by Mr. Greenwood. All in favor, raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
I mean, I hope you get a chance to come. One more thing I'd like to say is that Homerama, as you know, is going on, and Mike Duke has given us 3 spaces, and we're going to have 17 of our vendors that has been part of our market here are actually going to go out, and we're going to have a couple vendors every day, and then we've got 3 really nice signs. And Dana Miller, Greg Dallinger, donated his 1958 Ford truck he's got out there, and we put our signs on it, kind of welcome to Bargersville and Main Street. So if you get a chance to go to Homerama, look us up. Thank you.
For all you
Good
do.
night. Okay, other council business?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to allow Joe to work with our council on the zoning litigation.
I have a motion from Mr. Doyle.
I'm going to abstain.
I have a second by Mr. Greenwood. All in favor, raise your right hand. Say aye. Aye. One abstain. Ms. Qualls. Motion carries. All right. Aspire.
Good evening. My name is Christian Maslowski. I'm President and CEO with Aspire, and this is Amanda Rubadoo, and she's Vice President of Economic Development with Aspire. And we are here to give you an overview and a recap of our last year working together, and to formally request that we have the opportunity to continue doing so. This is not long, and you have a copy of the deck in your meeting packet. So today's agenda is quick. It's where have we been? Where are we now? And what's next? Where have we been? We shared a journey in the past couple of years. As you know, local business leaders agreed to merge the Greater Greenwood Chamber and Johnson County Development to form one economic development organization called Johnson County to lead the economy to the next level. Bargersville residents elected new town council members to lead the community through its next storied chapter. we agree, we have the same aspiration, is to achieve smart, sustainable, quality economic development at an even higher level. So we agreed to form a new working relationship built on contemporary vision of economic development success, communication, and collaboration.
Right. So what have we been working on? So we've had the opportunity over the last year to have regular communication with both elected officials and staff to talk about the upcoming projects, learn about initiatives, brainstorm how to take advantage of Bargersville's assets. We thank you for your engagement on our Economic Development Advisory Council, our EDAC. I know everyone has been very, very interested in what's going on here in Bargersville, and we also get the opportunity to share best practices in that meeting. Oh, yeah, can you do the clip? Thank you. All right. I got to present a training on tax abatement, which is one of my favorite subjects. We had the hospitality training for Festival Country. I know Julie and I both were just overjoyed at how well that went. I think we're going to have Ken at every event we possibly can. We've been working with Mike Duke on the site certification. Got to work with Centurion Arms Project. We were able to get some press in both the Inside Indiana Business and the Daily Journal on that one. So what's next? We will continue working on those things. We'll continue working closely with both elected officials and staff, continue to market sites. The digital talent attraction campaign along with Homerama is up and running, so we can capitalize on all of that interest. I've gotten to be part of some of the initial stages of the UDO update, and ready. Yeah. What it initially appeared to be disjointed and very challenging has now morphed into something that is starting to look like a cohesive plan with projects that will impact Bargersville, the region, Johnson County as a whole. So we're actually starting to get pretty excited about it. Current project facilitation. So the next one, Project Hops, Paxman. We've gotten to work on. Do you like my project name on that one? That's good. Yeah. And so as we continue to staff up, so this is kind of that next piece. A lot more of our time is going to be spent on the actual hunting for these projects, going to trade shows, literally reaching out to companies that we want in our area and knocking on their doors, essentially. We'll continue to chase down those leads, chase down ideas, such as, we've been talking about a Polytech school, different things like that. And we'll be continuing to connect you to the resources that you need and to help those ideas come to fruition. So.
While our Economic Development Advisory Council certainly enjoys all of the updates and seeing regular, consistent engagement from the town, our entire email list seems to be very interested. It's proven that Bargersville has an exciting story and there's a lot of buzz. Our average e-news open rate is 3% higher when we are running a story featuring Bargersville, and our click rate, which means they're actually taking the time to click through and read the stories, is 9% higher when we run stories about Bargersville. So there's a lot of interest and there's a lot of buzz and a lot of momentum, and that's just one anecdote about that. So we wanted to give you the time to ask any questions that you have. And again, we thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. We've enjoyed working with you. We appreciate the opportunity to continue working with you. We do ask that you do consider renewing our contract for next year or the coming year. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I just have a comment that you guys have been wonderful to work with this past year. We've really enjoyed it. I know Andrew and I and Julie, we've all been on early morning meetings, and there's tears, there's happiness, it's all over the place. So I do appreciate everything and putting the effort into our town. You can actually see it, you can feel it, and I think people are believing it. So I appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Thank you for everything.
Do you need to?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
You got it. Okay. I'll make a motion to renew our annual contract with Aspire Johnson County
for professional community and economic development services in an amount not to exceed $10,000.
Motion by Mr. Greenwood.
I'll second.
I have a second by Ms. Balls. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, I think that's it under other council business. And Adam, you're up. sir.
Okay, I'm going to try to be as brief as Christian was, but we'll see. Perfect, awesome. Okay, so for the benefit of the audience and council, this is, before we got into the department worksheets for the proposed 2022 town budget, thought it'd be helpful just for anyone new to tonight for the public hearing, just very quickly run back through kind of the budget summary. I'll do this as concisely as I can, just for brevity. So with regards to where we're at in the process, tonight, there's no action tonight other than just opening the public hearing. At the next regularly scheduled council meeting will be the proposed adoption of the 2022 budget. And really tonight, we're just trying to walk through the department's proposals, communicate those estimates, allow for public comment, as well as address any comment or questions that the council may have in preparation of the final meeting. We covered these last time. I won't bore everyone with these. Really, what I would probably make as a point of emphasis is that actual final term, bulleted term on the right-hand column, the proposed budget. That's exactly what we have right now. We have a proposed budget, not an adopted budget. So the proposed budget has been advertised and noticed for all the state reporting requirements, et cetera. And ultimately, the town council has the option to adjust, move, levy, reduce, et cetera, and then finally vote on an adopted budget. And that's essentially what then gets approved and tracked internally as the original budget. As far as mid-year performance, again, this is mid-year as of June 30th. You can see the revenue and expense trends there on your left. The blue is revenue, red is expense, and the far right column is the actual year-to-date actuals through June. So you can see year-to-date through June, the town had actually realized more actual cash revenue receipts versus total expenditures. The pie chart, or the donut chart, I should say, over to the right is the revenue broken down by account. And this is for town-wide, not including any of the utilities. And really the key point there is just the diversification, and then the major revenue sources being general property tax, local income tax, and utility admin reimbursement. Looking at the expense trends again, the largest expense by category is personal services, followed by capital. So when we get into the budget worksheets, we'll try to spend time focusing on those two areas, mostly just from a meaningful materiality standpoint. We'll make sure to call out any changes in positions, pay steps, et cetera, as well as any planned capital expenditures that may be discretionary. When we look at the current year forecast, that's looking at the year-to-date June 30th year-to-date amounts, and then projecting those through the end of the calendar year. In most cases, that is as simple as doubling their actuals, but obviously we've taken into consideration things that are one-times, debt services, et cetera. And then as part of our process with working with the department heads, we've allowed them to override that as well. So if they knew that they were going to have a large expense later in the year or had already incurred something, those factors are considered as well. So as of right now, the current forecast is that the town actually ends the year in a structured surplus. Looking at our revenue forecast, because of that, those year-to-date trends, we've proposed a revenue budget that is slightly higher year over year than what was adopted from a revenue budget. Really no fiscal policy change there, really just trying to get the budget closer to the actual results. The stack bar chart on the right, for the benefit of the audience, is the top 3 revenue sources, actual trends year over year versus what's budgeted. Key takeaway there is that we're budgeting a little less than we're even projecting this year out of a spirit of trying to be conservative. And then really lastly, as far as the summary level, as far as taxpayer impacts, first up, it is always a little challenging to answer the question on an individual property owner's perspective, just because the same home, the same valuation, depending on if it's owned or rented, have various different tax caps, have various different tax impacts. But in general, one trend that I would say in aggregate is the town's certified net assessed values have been growing on average pretty substantially year over year. When you compare that to what is referred to as the levy growth quotient, what the state allows you to grow your maximum levy at, over the last few years, your net assessed value is growing at a faster rate than what the levy can grow at. So what that really works out to is that your tax rate that is levied on a given home, in addition to the county and schools and those kind of things, has actually been decreasing. And that's the chart on the top right. So the chart on the top left is showing total town net assessed valuations. They are increasing. As a result of the levy not increasing as much, the actual tax rate has actually been decreased. Okay. I would also say the state growth quotient for 2022 is 4.3%, and the budget does assume that you max out that 4.3% growth. So I know this is a little bit of an eye exam. I will mail you all your annual eye certifications. The net result here is across all funds, we're actually showing kind of a net spin down of accumulated fund balance. But really the funds of significance, I would look at the general fund, which is the first row there, Fund 101. It has a budgeted surplus right now going into the request of $64,000, and it's projected a 12/31/2022 operating reserve of 61%. When we look at the rainy day balance, it actually has budgeted revenues coming in from 2022 revenues to continue to beef it over time, and it has a projected budget year ending reserve level at 22%. So in aggregate with the operating funds of the town, when we kind of set aside special non-reverting funds and capital funds and those types of things, and really look at the funds that are really the financial backstop for the town, they're in structured surplus, and the reserve levels are on a budgetary capacity are expected to increase slightly. So with that, I know I went very fast, but I again just wanted to switch gears now into the department proposals. I'll go through those, and then we can progress to the public hearing. Help me switch to those sheets, please. All right, so I'm going to pull that up on my side real quick. 1 second. Okay, perfect. All right, so what I will do here is I'm going to go through department by department and just communicate any changes that were made between the last meeting and today. Communicate the total proposed budget, and then I will pause briefly. If there's not any immediate questions, I'll go ahead and roll to the next one, and then we can take questions at the end if that's okay with council. So the initial department is town council. Really the only change, and I'll just say this once because it'll show up in every department. Since the last meeting, we have introduced a 3% cost of living adjustment for all full-time, part-time boards and commissions. So you'll see that kind of throughout. Really, there were no other meaningful changes in departments' requests. We had a few housekeeping edits. You may see some additional notes that you didn't see at the last time. but there were no other meaningful changes. So the 2022 proposed council budget is $372,866 currently. Hey, that's working good. This should work. Moving to municipal finance. Same thing with regards to the cost of living adjustment. No additional changes. I know there's been some discussion with regards to one of these accounts. We can certainly at the end of this or now discuss whether or not that smart bill adjustment should be removed. But as proposed from the department, it's $679,213. As proposed, there was one account as we went back through it and answered questions. There's one account that is 100% serving the utilities. So rather than it being incorporated in with the cost share methodology, we would make a recommendation to motion that out. And effectively what it'll do is it'll reduce the general fund expenses. It'll also reduce the that line item's cost share recovery as well. The net budgetary savings is just shy of $21,000. I'm going to definitely read this one to you. Okay, with municipal operations, their proposed budget is $704,400. And just for context, they had the one vehicle replacement. They have a proposed Chevy Equinox, which was replacing one through the new vehicle lease, enterprise lease replacement. That's recorded down below. Okay, moving on to IT. With information technology, really no changes. We added some additional notes here for the unfunded part-time. So in the current budget, there was a part-time position that has been proposed to be defunded in 2022 with an offsetting adjustment to an increased contractual service, increase the level of service. The proposed budget, therefore, is $748,400. And you can see down below that as far as the positional control, formerly had the IT coordinator that was part-time. It has been zeroed out moving forward. Okay, this is the police department. There's a lot going on here, so I'll for the benefit of those that may not be able to see this on the screen, of all the departments, this is the one that had probably the largest departmental request as far as the dollar amount perspective. The department, the base budget, before any additional changes, they had one officer step from a second-class patrolman to a first-class patrolman. In addition to that, the department's requesting 2 additional first-class patrolmen, as well as a K9 unit is also proposed in this budget. Obviously, with the additional officers and the K9 unit, for that matter, there's additional employee benefits, there's additional overtime, and there's additional operating costs, as well as capital costs to fully equip and provide the necessary patrol vehicles for those officers. Those are, best we could, noted in the budget notes for which accounts tie back to that department proposal, so that the council and citizens can see which, if that is decided upon or not, how that would impact the budget. Additionally, this department obviously has the police station that's being constructed, as well as the vehicle lease replacement program as well. So with regards to the station, this budget includes new anticipated debt service levy for the approximate 2.1-ish million in bond proceeds, and then funds the remainder, essentially a third split between one-time uses of general fund accumulated balance, a third with regards to the American Rescue proceeds, and then a third with regards to one-time use from the CCD, or Cumulative Capital Development Fund. Those are all contemplated in the budget numbers that you see. And for 2022, the capital budget also includes the kind of the loose equipment, IT, and fire irrigation estimates as well. So based on the original project cost, it is funded within this proposed budget. With regards to the vehicle leases, which is at the very bottom of the page, there were a few vehicles that were intended to be replaced and leased with kind of a status quo level of staffing. So essentially just replacing the fleet that currently exists with the enterprise lease. Whereas if the additional 2 officers are approved, it would also necessitate the 2 additional patrol units. So those are added in for your visibility. With all that said, the proposed 2022 budget is $1,731,950, I believe. Okay, development actually went through. They made quite a bit of budgetary adjustments down based on trend. So year over year, the department's request is actually a smaller budget. So the 2022 proposal is $588,399, and really no staffing changes. And then as far as a capital request, it has the replacement of vehicle 3816 or a new Chevy 1500. Streets is a proposed budget of $845,000 even. Really not a significant amount of departments requests here. A lot of the capital has to do with machinery and equipment. So if you look towards the bottom, we have a variety of equipment items being provided here or being requested. So there's a John Deere Gator. There is match for a new mower. There's a match for a street sweeper as well. And then from a major kind of public project standpoint, there's ADA sidewalks that are incorporated in this, the final highway contribution for the road project, as well as you'll see in the non-departmental, there's a significant amount with regards to the local road and street matching grant for community crossings, but also fully funds the local share, assuming that is awarded next year as well. Parks. So Parks is proposed budget is $309,050. This is the Parks Department. When we look at some of the non-departmental, you'll see there's a capital plan that funds the activation phase for phase 2 for Kephart Park. It's the current budget that you have. This finances that entire portion of that first phase of the project from cash or current revenues on hand, without any additional bond proceeds being required to fund that portion of the project. I should also say, before we move on, there's also some trail connections, et cetera, that are funded in there as well. With regards to events, really no change. Proposing the same budget as adopted in 2021, or $18,300. Safety is a relatively new department budgetarily. No change requested, requesting a carryover of the same adopted budget of $74,000. Has no employees, no capital request either. Last but not least is other non-departmental. Quickly, just to define this is more of a local government finance accounting process. So things like debt service, certain expenditures aren't, even certain revenues for that matter, aren't departmentalized. So within the budgetary account string, there's not a code that maps to a specific department. And some of the reason for that is year to year, specifically like capital funds, you might be able to use for different departments, right? So they're more kind of broad, and then you can define them year to year. So it's a relatively large bucket of budgetary planned budget. So I would encourage you, look at the notes, make sure you're comfortable what's there. Things like the grant proceeds for the local road and street match, a lot of the park contributions are all kind of in this because they're really one-time uses or not kind of day-to-day operating expenses. So a lot of the capital funds and those types of things are actually budgeted in this kind of non-departmental category. The total proposed budget for this fund is $4,527,618. And again, this primarily covers bonds, leases, major capital, one-time capital, et cetera. And I believe that is it. So I know that was a lot. I'll pause and ask, see if you have any questions.
Council, if you have any questions, I took some notes, and then we can open up to the public if there's any questions. And anybody? I just had one question. You mentioned on this municipal budget on the smart bills, that was 110. Is that it's a utility billing service? So we can put that completely on utilities and save the cost share to the other departments?
That is my understanding, and I confirmed that with the deputy controller earlier this morning.
I mean, I would be in favor if we can put that back on utilities, and that will put a 20-some thousand back on the other departments as a positive.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, we confirmed. I worked with Lori, and then we it was pretty much clear that it was 100% used for the utility, but rather than the town's 19% share and all of that, it just probably is cleaner for both parties if it's just the utility direct expense.
I would say to move that into the utility category.
All right, I'll make that change. Thank you.
Any other questions, council? Okay, I will go ahead and open it up to the public. If you've got any questions on this budgetary matter. If you could come to the podium and if you have any questions and say your name and your address. Anybody? Any questions? Well, I will close the public hearing. Thanks, Adam. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Appreciate all the hard work. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to table ordinance 2021-13 on the handbook. Next ordinance, 2021-15 on adjusting the water rates.
Good evening. I'm here to introduce Scott Miller with Baker Tilly to discuss our rates for utilities. I'll turn it over.
Good evening, Scott Miller with Baker Tilly. Good to see you all again. We have a series of ordinances for you tonight to move forward with the utility rates and the financings for the proposed projects. I do have a revised version of both the water and the wastewater ordinance that I want to pass out to you. As we've been working through the analysis, one of the requests was to also consider whether or not there needed to be a change in the system development charge and the tap fee for both water and wastewater for when somebody brand new to the system connects. And that information has been coming in. That information has been coming in and just kind of wrapped up calculations right before I left today. So I wanted to go over this with you real quick. There are just a couple changes. If on this particular ordinance, if you look at the top of the second page, look at section 3. And the second sentence, all we did there was it now reads, in particular, all non-recurring charges established by Barkersville ordinances and not shown on the attached Exhibit A shall not be repealed or changed, meaning that if a new fee or a revised fee isn't on the schedule of rates attached to this ordinance, it's still going to stay in effect and you'll still charge that. So what we did then on the third page, it has all of the rates for phase 1 and phase 2 that we talked about at the last meeting that were presented in the rate study. Those are all contained in the ordinance now. On the very bottom, though, we added in the amounts for the tap fee and the system development charge for the water utility. The fee right now, or the proposed fee for the water utility actually goes down to $350 for a 5/8 inch meter, and for a larger meter to $560. That your current charge right now is $625. I'm sorry, $550 for the tap. So we go from a tap fee of $550 down to $350, and that's just a function of what you're doing now as it relates to taps. The developer is doing most of that work, and your folks are just really inspecting that connection. So there's not as much time involved there. So we expected that decrease. Right below that is the system development charge. Your current charge for a 5/8 3/4 inch meter is $1,175. As we look at that fee and recalculate it, what we're coming up with now is $2,900. So there'd be an increase there from $1,175 to $2,900. And those would stay the same both for phase 1 and phase 2. So those are the new sections. That availability fee, well, the tap fee, of course, is to make the actual connection to the line. You basically, what you're doing, your folks are inspecting that connection once it's been made. The availability fee or the system development charge is getting your getting those new customers on more of an even footing with your current customers, because they've paid into the system, they've built up some value in the system, they've contributed to the equity or the capacity that you have in that system, and so the new customers are in a way buying their capacity in the system, and so that's what that calculation does. And you can see then the fee there going to $2,900. Since this is coming to you brand new, one thing I do want to point out on, especially on those two pieces, we wanted to get something in here for you to consider, because you're only going to introduce this on first reading tonight. Adoption doesn't take place until October 12th. So if in the intervening time you've had a chance to think about it, you think we want something less than that, we can always amend it downward at that meeting. We just wanted to get something in here as kind of a placeholder so that you had a chance to think about it. And if you want to make that change, we can go forward and do it. Otherwise, we'd have to go through this process separately to change those fees as well. So our recommendation would be that you introduce the revised version of the ordinance that I just passed out instead of the one that went out in email. I think it was earlier today.
We need to do this by consensus or just as a reading introduction, so as noted.
Scott, how does this line up with the budgets that we went over previously, and what, in terms of percentage increases and what we were looking at in order to make things work over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so the rates themselves are exactly what you looked at the last time.
Okay.
None of that changed. We're just adjusting those non-recurring charges. So yeah, these rates will fund the budget that you saw in that last rate report from the last meeting.
And the changes in the larger meter sizes?
Yeah, so the way that calculation works is based on equivalency factors for different size meters, because somebody that has a 6-inch meter can put a lot greater demand on your system than somebody with a 5/8 inch meter. So it tries to get those larger size meters back to an equivalent 5/8 inch connection.
And how do those compare? Is it all pro rata in terms of percentage increase from the 1175 to 2900, or is it?
So what?
Fluctuate?
Yeah. So what you do is you calculate what that fee would be for a 5/8 inch meter, that standard 5/8, and then you apply the equivalency factors to that rate for 5/8 and recalculate the oversized meter. So it's not a percentage increase. It's what's the calculation for the 5/8, then apply the equivalency factors to get the oversize.
In your experience, how common is it that there's an actual reduction in a part of the fee?
In this case, not uncommon, because you're not doing it. It'd be different if you were actually doing the install yourself. And if that were the case, we'd likely see an increase in that fee. But we've had other communities where they've moved that work onto the developer, and so because of that, they reduced the tap fee.
Okay, move on.
Good
You
with.
need direction on the changes, or we're.
No,
this is-
you just,
Okay, I
yeah,
didn't
you
know.
just, whatever your process is
Okay,
for
then we'll-
introduction of an ordinance, that's all we need
Introduction,
tonight.
it's just automatically the
Right,
next
so,
meeting will go to.
I guess technically, before we move on, you probably should identify or specifically state when that public hearing is going to be. I think we've planned for it to be October 12th at your evening meeting at 7 o'clock, but we're going to need to publish notice.
The notices are prepared and ready to be published.
So you probably just need to acknowledge that that's when it's going to be.
October 12th.
That'll be for water, sewer, electric,
All three.
all three.
Right, come on.
October 12th is all three.
Just the.
We'll double check that date.
So
Yeah.
we may need a new date.
Break.
That's fine.
Maybe we have to, because if we're all, maybe we move that meeting to the first Tuesday of October. Because, that's gonna be, it's a very important meeting.
We have one more meeting before that, so.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
we'll confirm that.
Yeah, because
Yeah, and then we'll announce that prior to make sure we get the notice.
Probably not gonna be able to get it before the next meeting of this month because of the number of days the notice has to be published, so it's gotta be October sometime.
Right, so,
Right.
first Tuesday in
Keep in
October.
mind, you do have, with the recent changes in the legislature, the ability to appear and participate, although
For this
Do
one.
that.
not this one, in the lead, budget ones, you cannot specifically exclude, I don't recall, as rates. Utility rates were provided for things you can.
I don't remember either.
They were discussed, but I know budget for, so it's kind of the same area.
Gotcha. We'll confirm.
I think.
I don't know that we'll have a quorum regardless.
Right.
We'll be-
We would have a quorum. So can we just right now move the October 12th meeting, October 5th, and get notice on, sorry, you gotta readjust that.
That's an easy adjustment, it's just making sure that there's,
10 days.
but by the time you get it to the journal and you get back when exactly they're gonna publish it, you'd be pushing it to get it fully.
Oh, yes, on October 5th, doable
If we get it to them
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
I say we just move it to October 5th.
I'm gonna bring
I
that.
need the updated schedules with the rate.
Yep, I'll send it to you. And that's normally your afternoon meeting. Would you still do it in the afternoon?
No, that's
Evening meeting.
Oh, that's your evening meeting? Okay.
Or second Tuesday, I'm not sure, sorry.
What is the, never mind. Yep. I'm off on my days.
The 5th. Yeah, I'm good with the 5th. So,
Advertise from us or the clerk or Julie to do that.
I would say go ahead. Julie, go ahead and advertise that. October 5th, night meeting.
And canceling the following week.
That will be our 7 o'clock meeting.
Is there anything with the sewer rates or the electric rates that you would like to present tonight?
So we have the same change on the sewer,
Okay.
so I can pass that out to you.
Kevin, would you leave here? Can you hold everything down?
Same issue here on the non-recurring charges, although in this case, we didn't adjust the sewer tap fee. That will remain at $250 as it is now. The language change is exactly the same as the water. It's on the bottom of the first page in section 3. We just added in and not shown on Exhibit A. And then on the last page, I just added in item D and item E, which is your sewer availability fee. That is currently $25.50, and it would go to $4,100. And then the force main availability fee is currently $250 and would go to $400. Everything else is the same.
Questions? We'll go ahead and move on to electrical. I don't think we have any questions.
Nothing on electric.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. This George. Okay, ordinance 2021-18. Oh,
So I'm going to keep going because we've got the bond ordinances for all three next. And those, there were several rounds of revisions. There haven't been weren't any changes today, I don't think. So I think you should have in your packet the latest version of the ordinance. All three of them, I'll just talk about all three in general. They're the bond ordinances that will authorize the financings for water, sewer, and electric to do the improvement projects that you had budgeted in your capital improvement plan. With the action on the rates and then the action on these to take place in October, we're moving forward and looking to sell bonds probably late October, early November, and then close late November, early December is kind of the current time frame. So we'll get those done yet this year. We do, as we've talked internally about how best to go about that process, because this is going to be a lot of debt for Bargersville hitting the market at once. It seems to us that it might be a more orderly process if we worked with an underwriter up front to help manage that, rather than doing individual competitive sales for each of the four issues, because we've got the 3 water, sewer, electric, plus the stormwater refunding we want to do at the same time. And that one's really small, so bundling it up with something else is going to help. So what we're recommending is kind of a quasi approach to this. And Kim, and we discussed this with Kim on one of the prior meetings, we have the ability to negotiate with an underwriter now. This is a new statute change that goes through the end of next year. But we also like some of the competitive aspects of doing this. We just lose control if we go a complete competitive sale. So what we're suggesting is we'll put together an RFP that you all will approve for the sewer bond issue, which is kind of bid size of the 4 that we're working on. send that RFP to the underwriters that we know that are interested in these transactions, and then have them give us quotes back and have that RFP very tightly worded on what they're allowed to, how they're allowed to bid, so that we can control their fees and how they price. Have them get those RFPs back to us, and then we compare them to where those bids are at in the market on that day. And then we hold them to kind of that spread between how they bid in the market and when we actually are ready and go out to do the bond issue. So we'd have them submit the RFP for the sewer bonds, pick the one that we think is going to do the best job based on those results, and then work with that underwriter to market all 4 of the bonds on a negotiated basis. That's our current thinking, which is a little bit different than kind of where we were about a month ago, but that we think we'll have a better opportunity to get those into the market, and get buyers and not have the market flooded with a bunch of Barkersville paper all at once. So any questions about that?
By doing that, does that help us with fee structure for underwriting?
Yeah, we'll definitely in the RFP identify what the maximum fee is that we'll accept as we go through that, and then also how they price things on the back end as well. So yeah, we'll try to control that as much as possible, and we'll still have, once we go through the process after having selected an underwriter, we'll still be monitoring the market and holding them to task, making sure that they're being as aggressive as they can be with the pricing.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, real quick on that, because that's, I mean, my brain works as, an underwriter packaging it, not flooding the market. I completely understand that. But what's our recourse if you start seeing, the next available bond hit the market and it's, for lack of a better term, he's sandbagging us?
If I'd be surprised, first off, if that happened, but if it did, we don't use them and we go with somebody else.
Okay, so the question there is the fee structure that we pay an underwriter. Are we paying him up front to do the whole thing, or is he paid by tranche?
What we'll do is we'll have them bid what their fee would be on the sewer bonds, and then we're going to let them know, we're asking you to bid on this, but we've got other transactions as well that we want to work with you on, and we're going to want to see that the fees throughout all 4 of them are reasonable and make sense for the type of issue that it is, because they'll probably be a little bit different for each different issue, and that their pricing is going to be consistent throughout. If we start to get in a situation where, they're throwing a bunch of fees on one, we're just not going to let them do that. And if we get into that situation, we fire them and we move on.
Okay, and that's, so leading that, let's say we, more than likely it won't happen, but I always like to know my options if it does. So let's say he gets the sewer bonds done and then we start seeing issues. How much longer will that process take to fire and rehire? Because you see what I'm saying, to be able to get the cash influx so that we can get these projects going.
Yeah.
Behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, it's not going to be, it certainly wouldn't be months of time. It'd probably be a couple weeks, because we'd need to get a new underwriter up to speed and all of that. But it's not going to dramatically set back moving forward with the projects.
Okay.
The only thing, and we're already pushing up against it because of timing, the only thing that I see really influencing us getting this done this year is if something crazy were to happen that blows up the market. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But we do all usually see a gradual trend in increase in interest rates as we get down to the end of the year. So we really want to be getting that pricing done in November, and not, if for whatever reason something happens and it looks like we're going to have to price in December, my recommendation would be, let's just wait. We'll have everything that we need. Let's just wait and do it in January or early February, because the market will settle back out.
Yes, I'm already determine what funds are gonna do by December.
Right,
so.
exactly.
Is there anything stopping us from getting it all done by November 15th, so before Thanksgiving and before everyone?
I don't, yeah, I think we're certainly on target to price, and that's the key. You know, we need to get it priced. Whether we close after Thanksgiving isn't as critical, but I think right now we're on target.
Any other questions?
We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim's on the Zoom and I think I heard her start to ask something.
I'm sorry. It's not a vote. Yeah.
Kim. Blanchard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Should be fun.
Hey, Scott, just one quick question, or one statement. Can we make sure tonight that we adopt each of those bond ordinances on first reading so that we can just kind of get through step one here?
This is introduction.
Oh. So what, if you didn't hear, what Kim is suggesting is actually adopting the bond ordinances tonight on first reading rather than doing it in two readings. We can't do that with the rates.
Just adopting on first reading only, and then we can do the second and final reading at your next meeting. I just need to show in the minutes that we've adopted, first reading only.
We can't do that, can we, on introduction?
Or however you normally do it for introduction, just in the minutes reflect that we've introduced them, all three of them.
Kim, I think that their feeling is that they did that. So if you need them to do something else.
Well, you can,
To make sure the minutes reflect individually the rate ordinances have been introduced and that each bond ordinance has been introduced.
yeah, just making sure that the minutes reflect that the rate ordinances, the bond ordinances were introduced.
They have been.
Yeah.
Is that right, Kim?
Individually.
Individual.
Yes, they all have been introduced.
Correct.
You could, I mean, if you wanted to, you could do a formal
Introduction.
decree that.
A decree that.
Okay, go ahead.
I hear my. Get that guy going. We got 6 to go.
Yeah. Or by decree, that we introduce an ordinance adjusting the water rates, an ordinance adjusting the sewer rates, an ordinance adjusting the electric rates, an ordinance authorizing the acquisition and construction of certain improvements and extensions to the electric utility, authorizing the issuance of electric utility revenue bonds, an ordinance authorizing the acquisition, construction, and installation of certain improvements to the sewage works system, authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds, and last but not least, an ordinance authorizing the acquisition, construction, and installation of extensions, additions, and improvements to the waterworks, authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds.
Second.
There's an introduction?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Raymond, appreciate it, Vice President. Okay. All right. See you. Okay,
do that there, Heath.
go ahead.
We got a resolution tonight for amending the cash change funds for the billing department. Billing department has requested some additional funds in their cash drawers for making change. And this is governed by resolution, so
I guess my question is, where's cash drawer? This is for cash drawer number 1, is that right? Where's cash drawer 2, 3, 4, 5?
Sam or Nancy, did you work on the resolution?
The following section of the resolution has been amended. Section 1, it says cash drawer 1 through cash drawer 5.
Yeah, where are those cash drawers?
Where are those cash?
Like physically, where are
Yeah,
they?
where are-
All in billing.
Oh, they're all in
Yeah.
billing. Okay, very good.
Sorry, I didn't
No,
understand.
that's okay, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to increase the cash drawers from $100 to $200
I'll
and
second.
adopt resolution 2021-12.
A motion, Mr. Creel, second by Ms. Pauls. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thanks.
Thanks. Joe?
Give Kevin a little break.
If that microphone's not working, just press the on button.
I can use my dad voice.
Yeah.
I can. So this is the second reading for ordinance 2021-10. This was given a unfavorable recommendation by the Planning Commission on July 19th, introduced August 10th, first reading on August 31st. The 90-day time frame for this petition would expire on October 17th. This is an ordinance to amend areas of the zoning map from R3 medium density residential to an R4 high density residential, known as Copper Meadows. The petitioner is here and is requested to be able to present tonight. Obviously up to the council's discretion.
Go ahead.
Hi, Caitlin Dofer, Senior Entitlement Manager for Arbor Homes. I don't want to take too much of your time tonight because I know we've talked about this before, but before a vote is taken, we did just want to touch on the comparisons of the project again, compared to what is allowed today with the R3 versus the R4 zoning with commitments that we are proposing. Both site plans before you would feature 102 lots. The only difference is the lot width and the lot size, and resulting from that is the lot depth. Actually, Joe, I don't think that, there we go, I'm sorry. I do want to expand on the lot depth a little more. The R3 lot area at 8,000 square feet and then a 70-foot wide width results in a minimum depth of 115 feet, which isn't very deep. And for the product that we are proposing, the destination product, it being an empty nester ranch product, the ranch floor plans do tend to be deeper because all the living space is on one floor. At 115-foot depth for the R3 lots, the destination product physically does not fit on the lot with the setbacks that come with the R3. The R4 with commitments, just changing the shape of the lot slightly, making them narrower and deeper. We're looking at a depth of 120 to 126 feet deep. All of our floor plans do fit on those lots with additional space left over for add-ons to the floor plan, a patio space, outdoor living space, whatever the home buyers choose. Ultimately, I think the proposal comes down to this property can be developed and it will be developed. As R3 today, it will be developed for 102 lots. R4, you're also looking at 102 lots. So what product is the best fit for the community? The comprehensive plan does call for Asian in place empty nester product. And so that's why we believe the destination product and the R4 zoning with commitments is the best fit. And with that, I'm happy to take any comments or questions.
Explain again what the R4 product is as far as amenities in the neighborhood. If you could.
Sure. So here we go. Here's just a straight comparison between R3, R4, and then the R4 with commitments. With the destination product, we are proposing a low maintenance community. The HOA and the installation of the homes will include fully sodded yards, irrigation, landscape maintenance around the entire yard, and snow plowing. With the R3 straight zoning, it would be the Arbor product, which is traditional single family. It's 1 and 2 story homes, traditionally family buyers, and there would not be a low maintenance option in that community.
Both R3 and R4 would have 102.
Correct. Yep. The R3, it's shallower lots, while the R4 is a little narrower. We're committing to 64 feet wide. And then it gives us the depth that we need in order to fit this plan. The R4 site plan also has more open space, more buffers to our neighbors surrounding us. With the greater width of the R3, it does eat up a lot of the open space and the buffer.
So what amenities? I didn't see a single amenity in that list.
Oh, I apologize. We do have,
Can you go back to the one slide with the comparison?
Sure.
Because that shows that layout.
There we go. So we have more open space on the R4 site plan. But other than that, because this is an empty nester community and we believe it's a walkable area, there are not any dedicated amenities with the R4 site plan. There would also not be any dedicated amenities with the R3 site plan. No, we discussed that at Plan Commission, and we were willing to put a north-south walking trail in. But unfortunately, we received a negative recommendation from Plan Commission, and so those were not added on to the commitments at that time. If council feels like that would make the R4 commitments better, then that is certainly something that we can commit to.
Joe, is this accurate? There'd be no buffer between lots 1 through 10, and is that our, what's in that southeastern corner? Is that our water building?
Street department.
Street department, sorry. What is that? Sorry.
I don't recall what the street department is zoned off the top of my head.
Wouldn't there have to be a buffer there?
If there's a zoning variation, yes.
It looks like that little cutout is partially also R3, and then the southeastern most corner is C3.
So there would have to be a buffer at C3, yes.
This site does not touch the C3 portion.
That's our street department. I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to have a buffer there.
Okay.
I don't think we'll be able to get those lots in there. I haven't redesigned it.
That appears to be a mistake on our GIS system. That entire property should be zoned C3.
Right.
There's a discrepancy in the line on the GIS system.
It is zone C3. Yes.
So what would the
It is
require, yeah, so what would the required buffer be between that and an R3?
Give me just a second, I can tell you.
Is it still required with walking trails on 2 cents? Or still required? Yeah.
Yeah.
We need
That's what that,
I just sort of know.
north, south, I'm not sure. Right,
North, south. Right.
It'd be
Are
a,
you
it'd be a
looking
buffer
for
yard,
pond space?
A, which is 3 feet, 30 foot width.
And then what's the minutes, then the minimum lot depth, so that road would work lots 1 through 10, and the current couldn't be constructed as shown, correct?
Yeah, without looking deeper, they'd still have to meet that 8,000 square foot lot area.
You couldn't get the depth right in the road.
For the
I guess
R3
I
site
guess
plan.
what I'm asking Joe is to clarify, is that an accurate portrayal of what you could currently, or anyone could currently do on that? That doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, without the buffers there, that would not be an accurate spot.
What are the depths on those lots that you're showing, 100, the minimum?
115.
Right, so you'd lose 30 feet, so your road would have to shift 30 feet to get those lots in.
We'd likely eat into that common area to the north where the road curves on the north end and probably adjust the pontoon on the west side.
Yeah, you still would lose those 10 lots. And then your open space, is that calculated including pond?
Correct. It's whatever the open space definition is in the zoning ordinance.
Do you include ponds,
Will that
Joe?
include the pond?
You don't include ponds.
Our calculation does not include the water level of the pond.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's.
Retention.
I would-
Our engineers have calculated it, however, the definition is in the zoning ordinance.
You double check that.
As far as the open space shown,
Yeah.
yeah, without something to scale, I couldn't come close to getting an accurate measurement. I don't know that staff has that layout other than in the presentation.
Joe, have you looked at the proposed, the one on the left? I assume that you have a full-scale drawing of
Yes,
that.
one on the left, yeah.
And that.
Is that, and that's accurate with the open
10.
space?
I believe we calculated that. It's been a minute, sorry, but I believe that's close to what the open space is shown without ponds.
Without the ponds, you said?
Correct.
Is there still an unwillingness by the petitioner to commit to age restrictions?
We looked into those HOA requirements, which would require 80% of the occupants to be 55 and up. When it comes to resale, the owners would have to monitor that themselves. And once it's out of our hands, we just don't feel comfortable committing to that upfront when down the road, once the HOA is turned over, they could then undo the age restriction. So we will keep it age targeted.
Any other questions from the council? Susie, or you? Okay, I think at this time, if there's anybody that wants to, thank you very much, we appreciate it. Is there any from the public, if you want to say anything, please come up, say your name, your address. Well, if not, any other thing from the council, any motions? Okay. I don't think we have any motions, so we're just gonna go ahead and carry on. Okay? Thank you very much, we appreciate it. Okay. All right. I have the minutes from the meeting on August 31st. Everybody had a chance to go over them. Any corrections or changes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the August 31st.
Have a
2021 meeting.
motion by Mrs. Moore. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Coles. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. None opposed? Everybody got the reports over for review? Any questions? Comments? Okay, I don't think we need to do anything with that. Okay. Hey, Julie, I think you're up.
I have no additional items.
Okay.
Take care of it. in the
Oh, we did
council
that on our
business.
other council? Okay, thank you. Anything else? No?
Not tonight.
Okay, Jed?
She got to me before I was ready.
Good to see you at different intervals in the meeting.
The only item I have tonight is acceptance of performance bonds for Highland Knoll Section 2. At this point, they're close to completing all their developer installed infrastructure. However, they're not 100% complete due to some backorder issues and some delays with dry utilities. So they have provided performance bonds for all the every developer installed utility, including streets, grading, everything that the guarantees are required for. Staff would recommend the council accept the secondary plat for Highland Knoll Section 2 and accept the performance guarantees as presented.
Is that in lieu of a bond, essentially?
Yeah, this is performance bonds are put out before completion. Basically, they're waiting for some water meter vaults. We won't let them video test the sanitary or storm until the dry utilities are in. So they're waiting for the dry utilities to finish so we can do that testing. So when those are complete, we can finish the testing and they'll be back with transfer of ownership and maintenance bonds.
We need to do these separately or
We can do it.
together.
Articulated like Joe did, motion to
Okay.
approve the acceptance of the plat and the performance guarantee.
I'll make a motion to accept the secondary plat and associated performance guarantees for the developer installed infrastructure within Highland Knoll Section 2.
Motion, Mr. Green. Second.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Balls. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Okay. Mr. Bertram, got something?
Plan nothing, everything's smooth.
Okay.
Everything's good.
How's the cars going?
Still not going.
Still not going. Got it. Okay. We are updated.
Okay. Still not here.
Yeah. Mr. Keller. Since you only have two on here, we won't adjourn quickly.
Thank you. The first item I have is consideration for changing the public access hours to the building. Currently, we open the front doors at 7 a.m. and it's fairly early, and that's some time ago. So we would like to consider going to 7:30 in the morning, which is still half hour sooner than some of our other neighboring cities and towns. Typically, it's 8 o'clock. But we'd like to adjust to 7:30 in the morning, give staff time to get in, catch up on work, and then they'll unlock the doors at 7:30. So I'd like to ask consideration for that. Answer any questions you might have. So access would be 7:30 to 4:30.
There's quite a few people that come in a half an hour time. I appreciate you going down.
So, yeah, looks like there's, a handful of folks. We look back to, looks like April, to run some numbers on transactions at the window from 7 a.m. to 7:30.
How many people in total do we have pay in person?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't,
Rough time frame. I mean, is this 1%, 10%?
right. I'd have to
30%?
take a look. I'm not sure how many transactions in total that we run for the day, so, for the month.
Might not be very many.
I know.
It might be a small percentage. I get it, but
That's
it's
like
way
8 people. That's a lot in half an hour.
right, but if you get 80 a day.
You know, just find out what it is.
Yeah, we can come back with that number
Yeah,
next meeting. Sure.
thank you.
Second item is increase of a purchase order for Crossroad Engineers. So Crossroads was brought on board for our coordination of the roundabout at Saddle Club and Stones Crossing. And until they did the design, we're not sure how many easements we needed. So now that we've identified the easements, this is now an amendment, I guess, to the purchase order that adds $17,500 to that for them to process 5 easements for the project.
And this is reimbursed by NDOT.
Yes.
Selfishly, when is this work going to start?
I believe next summer. Yeah. So we have to have, I believe utilities need to be relocated.
How long of a build is it, do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. My guess is they want to have it done before school starts back up.
Pretty gnarly intersection.
What intersection?
Saddle Club and Stones Crossing.
Ortiz. Up the hill and then
17,500.
Yeah.
Not to
Yeah,
exceed.
I'll make a motion to increase the Crossroad Engineers purchase order number 04685-21, an additional $17,500.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Green, second by Ms. Walls. All in favor, raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, so the floor.
Thank you. Any questions for me? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Board, any updates or anything? Everything, you got anything to add? Inspirational quotes? No? Okay. Anything else? Okay, I'm looking, next meeting, September 28th, 1 o'clock.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.